Okay, we're up to Lamed Chesam and Aleph, where we're going to start a Lamed Chesam and base. A good vach to all, and we're continuing a sugya about Rav. Rav said if a person is magdish his eved, he goes free. If a person is magdish his eved, he goes free. In other words, what did he mean when he said he's magdish the eved? Exactly what did he mean? Was he magdish it for his worth? He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything about worth. He said the words of the magdish. You can't be magdish an eved, and eved is not something that has kedushas aguf. So Rav said, what did he mean when he said he's magdish the eved? That he should join the am that is kadosh. That's what he said. So that was a lashon of freedom. Yatzel lecheres, and Rav Chia bar Ravin added, and he also would have to go ahead and write him a get shichur. So again, the main point over here is to know Rav's shita. Again, without this we can't move. Says Rav, if a person's magdish is eved, he goes to cherus with the get shichur. What did he mean when he was magdish the eved? He meant that he should join the Am Ha-Nivcha, the Am Kodesh. So we're beginning on Lamed Ches Amid Beis to question Rav Toshma, 2 lines from the bottom. Toshma, Ha-Magdish Avdoi, if someone makes his Eved Kodesh, Oisa, he can go ahead and work. And we don't say that the workings of his hands are Hegdish, the Oichel, and the Eved works, and he eats whatever the Eved makes. Right? Higdish ela dama. He was only magdish his dama. So he's saying when you're magdish the eved, what are you doing? You're making him kodesh for his value, to give his value to the Beis Hamikdash. So that's a question on Rav. Again, for those people who just joined, let's look cover those people. Rav said you're magdish the eved. You really mean to say the eved's free. You don't be doing magdashim for his value. Yeah, we have a Moira Rav. Yet you have over here a statement that if someone is magdash his eved, then he means he's kodesh for his worth. I mean, he's giving the money to the Beis Hamikdash, but not that he's free. Not that he's free. That's exactly the kasha on Rav. Amid Aleph, money Reb Meyahi. Who is the Tana of that brisa that says that he is magdash the damav? It's Reb Meya. The Amar ein adam mitzi devar lo atala. If a person says something and it's within the realm of reality, but not total. So, for example, we know there's a parsha of erchin. If a person says erki olai, depending upon the person's age, you will give a set amount. If the person's between 20 and 50, there's a set amount that you give. If a person says demei olai, then you take him to the slave market and see exactly how much he's worth. So Erki Alai, regardless of his physical attributes or weaknesses, it's a set amount. The Alai would be what? Would be the worth of the person. Let's say a person would say Erki on a baby that's less than 30 days old. And he said the lashon of Erchin. A baby less than 30 days old does not have a parsha of Erchin. So what did he mean? So really what he meant was to say Lidemei. Even though he said the lashon of erchin, right, which is not applicable, it's not a reality in the world of erchin because there is no erech for one less than 30 days. But he meant to say the may. Where do you get that from? He didn't say the may. Says Reb Meya, ein adam moitzi devar levatol. If a person opens his mouth, he means to say something. So too over here, this brisa that said a person's magdish is eved, ein atzimad advar levatala, and he meant to say he's kodesh lidemei. So, Hamani Rabbi, he dama in other might see the Atala. Hachanami mistabra to say that brisa at the bottom of Amid Beis is speaking about like Reb Meya, that ain't other might see the Atala. The Ketani Seifa, because we learned the Seifa of that brisa, v'chein hu shehigdish atzmai. If a person would say himself is kodesh, he works and he eats. He works and he eats, and whatever work and whatever eat he does is not kodesh. Whatever work and whatever he eats is not kodesh, right? All right. So higdish eladamav, because what did he mean? He meant his value to the Beis Hamikdash. Very good if you'll tell me, Reb Meya, it's according to Reb Meya, Shapir. Ein adam mitzi devar levatala. A person is not mitzi is devar levatala, and therefore he meant he's going to give his demei to the Beis Hamikdash. Eliyam Rabbanon. However, if you're going to say it's the Rabbanon who argue on Reb Meya, And the Rabbanon who say that a person is Magdish Stam, right? That he's Magdish Stam, Rashi says, Eli Amir Rabbanon, V'taimim Mishum de Magdish Stam, Dovashein Roy Legufoi, Higdishu Ledom of Limocher, that you're Magdish the Eved to be sold. In other words, Bishlema Avdoi Ledemei Koi, you could sell your Eved. But you could sell your Eved. In other words, I could sell my Eved, and I own him, I could sell him. El Ihu Ledemei Koi. But he himself, he's not there, he's not a someone to be sold. Again, the two possibilities when you said you Magdish the Eved is you're Magdishing to be sold or the value of the Eved. Saying, it says Rabbi, it must be the value of the Eved. And what's the Raya? Because the latter case is speaking about him. Him, it's not possible the word that you're Magdish himself to be sold. It doesn't exist. He's not a piece of material. He's not an object that could be sold. So it must be, he means l'demei. So who adin, because ain't the Magdish Tolo, who adin in the ratio. But it's not a kasha on Rav, because Rav goes according to a different opinion. He doesn't go according to Reb Meir. That's Reb Meir, and Rav does not agree with Meir. Says the Gemara, Kit Hanoi. Let's say it's a machlokes Tanoim, whether when a person's Magdish is Eved, if he's Magdish the Eved or l'demei. Ha-Magdish Avdoi, if a person's Magdish is Eved, Ein Moilin Bo. There's no din of Me'ila in the Eved. A person's Magdish in Eved, there's no din of Me'ila in the Eved. So therefore, if you go ahead and have enough in the Eved, you wouldn't have to pay the Keren and the Chaimesh or bring a carbon. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel disagrees, and Omer Moilin, right? Besarai, there would be a din of Me'ila in his hair. There would be a din of Me'ila in his hair. My lab b'hakimifli, the Masava Kaddish, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says there is a din of Me'ila in his hair, must hold the Eved as Kodesh. Umasava like Kaddish, and the Tanakamu says Ein Moilin must hold he's not Kaddish. So the machlokes between the Brisa and Rav, that right, this is the machlokes Tanoim. B'tizbra Hai Moilin Ba Vein Moilin Ba Hai Kaddish Vein Kaddish Mi Boilei. If the svaras machlokes is whether his hair is din of meal or not, it should say Moil Moil. If the machlokes is whether he's Kaddish or not, why are you saying the lashon of Meila? Say if your Magdish Eved is Kaddish. If you Magdish the Eved, is not Kaddish. Why do you say Lashon Moil, not Moil? Ella, that can't be the Sfaras Machlokes. And Mamela, it's not a Machlokes Tanoim that Rav entered into. Ella, the Kuli Alma Kaddish. Everyone holds that if a person is Magdish the Eved, if a person is Magdish the Eved, he would be Kaddish to be sold for his value. Anyone who's Magdish an Eved he's Kaddish for his value. V'hacha b'hacha mifrachi. The Masava of the Kimekar Kidami. At Masavar, the Tanakama holds, who says Ein Moilin, he holds that an Eved is similar to Karka. We can have Machlokes in the Gemara in Kiddushin. What's the status of an Eved? And in Baba Kamra as well. Is an Eved is treated like Karka, or is an Eved treated like Metaltalin? If an Eved is treated like Karka, you nick the B'kesef, B'shtaru B'chazaka, like Karka. However, the halacha fellas that Ein Me'ila B'karkois. There's no din of Mila in Karkois. When it comes to Karka, there is no din of Mila. When it comes to Karka, there is no din of Mila, right? It's a very famous Gezerah Shabbos and Chas, Chet Mi Truma, right? In order to be moil, it has to be something that is similar to Truma, which is Tolush. Chet Mi Truma. So therefore, just like there's no Mila, right? Just like there's no Mila by in something that's that's attached to the ground, but like truma only when it's disattached. So too, there's no mila in karka. Umas savar and Rav Shimon's of the opinion kimitaltli dami that he has a din of metaltalin. Now here's the question: like Rav Shimon that he has a din of metaltalin, why you're limiting the meila to his hair? The meila should be in his whole body. Again, the patur of meila is if he's like karka. The patur is not if he is like metaltalin. If it's like metaltalin, why you say the meal is only in his hair? His meal should be in his whole guf. Says if you're telling me that you say the machlokes between the two is whether Eved is kimekarka or kimetaltali, let's argue in his whole body. Like Rav Shimon, who says there's his sar is mila, and because he's metaltalin, his whole body there should be a din of mila. Elo, let's change gears. Elo the kuli alma avda kimekarki dami. Everyone holds Eved is karka. So Mamela of Eved is karka, there's no din of mila in his body. So why is his hair different? Why is his hair different? The They're arguing whether the hair guy needs a haircut, fellas. If he needs a haircut, do we view it as disconnected already? Do we view it as disconnected and there's a din of me'ilah? Or do we view it, do we view it what? As still part of his head, and therefore it's his kimakarka? That's the machlokes. Masav kigazes dami. Rav Shimon's of the opinion will view it as separate. Once it's separate, it's not karka anymore, there's a din of me'ilah. Umasav alav kigazes dami. And someone else is of the opinion, the Tanakama is lav kigazes dami, will view it as connected to the Eved, and the Eved is be like karka, Mameli is like karka, therefore there's no din of me'ilah. But it doesn't have bearing on the bearing of but that Rav is entering a machlokes tanoim. So again, so Rav is held serve. Rav is held serve that Yemagdish the Eved. Really, what are you doing? You're freeing him. Yemagdish the Eved, you're freeing him. Because you're not saying, because if you wanted to say his worth, you'd say L'demei. And an Eved is not really ready to be Kodesh. Says the Gemara Vaita. Lema Hani Tanoi Kahani Tanoi. Let's say the machlokes we just had between the Tanakama and Rav Shimon, whether there's a din of me'ilah in the here or not, right? Let's say it's a machlokes Tanoi. But not Rav Meir Omer, Yesh Devarim Shehem Kikarka, Ve'ena Kikarka. There are things that are like karka and not like karka. Ve'en Chachamim Moedim Loi, and the Chacham do not agree with him. Ketzad, Eser Gefanim. Okay, there's guys, just like there's no me'ilah be karka, there's no shvua bekarka. Let me give you a little hakdama. Just like there's no din of mila in karka, there's no din of shvua in karka. Ein nishboin al karkois. You can't swear in karkois. Okay? We know one of the three shvuas hatayr is the shvua moedim b'miktsas. If a guy claims 100 and you agree to 50, you chayv shvua deraisa. So we're going to touch upon those two concepts. One, the din of moedim b'miktsas, and two, ein nishboin al karkois. So let's say the machlokes over here, whether there's a din of the by the case of the Eved was machlokes, whether is oimei ligazes is kagazes dummy, do you view it as connected or disconnected? We're going to have the same machlokes by grapes. The grapes that are connected to the ground, do we view them as harvested already and you would be able to swear on them? Or do we say no, they're connected to the ground and they nishmoin al karkois? And that will be the corollary, right? That will be the parallel. Like Rav Shimon, who says you view them as the hair is disconnected, you would view the grapes as disconnected. And like the Mandi Amar, who says that no, as long as it's connected, it's connected. Who are in grapes, if they're connected, would be connected. And therefore you'd have a complete parallel between the machlokes by hair as the machlokes by grapes. That's the foreshadow. Okay. Ketzad. Esed gefanim, you have 10 vines, tu'unois that are laden with grapes. Nesarti lecha, I gave them to you. And he says, Eina ela chamesh. You didn't give me 10, you only gave me 5. So he's moda b'miktsas. He's agreeing to partial agreement. And that l'chayrishi mechayev meshua, if it's not karka, it's mechayev meshua. Ramei mechayev v'chachamim moimrim. Ramei is mechayev v'chachamim moimrim. Kol ha'mechuva l'karka hariyuki karka, and therefore you would not swear. So pashtus, Ramei would hold like Rav Shimon, just like there's a din of meal in the hair because it's disattached. Who are then this shvua on the grapes because it's disattached. And like the Tanakam says there's no mila by hair, there's no mila by grapes because they're both considered attached. The nafkamina between the Tanakam and Rameya is speaking by grapes that are holding to be harvested. The Rameya Sava Kibitsuras Damya will view them ready as disconnected, as harvested, similar to the hair being oimid ligazes. Rabbi and Savri Lav Kibitsuras Damya. So let's say so we want to say that machlokes tanoim is this machlokes tanoim are exact parallels. Says going no. Afilu tema Reb Meir. You could even say that Reb Meir would agree by hair. There's a difference by hair and by grapes. Ad kan like Reb Meir pasam by grapes. Elabanovim that will view them as harvested. The kamu the kaimin mikchash chishi. You're a farmer. You're a grape harvester. You know, the longer the grape stays on the vine when it's ripe, it's getting weaker. In other words, it's not good for it to stay on the vine. The longer it stays on the vine, when it's ready to be harvested, the worse it is. Therefore, Reb Meir views grapes as already disattached because it's not good to be there. Aval hacha, but by here, here, the longer it stays on the head, gets better, right? The longer I have somebody nodding in the backyard. The longer it stays on the hair, the better it is. The longer it stays on the head. So therefore, Reb Meir would agree that we don't view it as kid's gaz's dummy. So he wouldn't hold like Rav Shimon, and we agree with the Tanakama. So you're not locked in to say that machlokes by here is the same machlokes by grapes. Not necessarily so. Kisalik Reb Chia bar Yosef, when he went up to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel, Amar lahai shmaitza de Rav kamed Rabbi Yochanan. He said the sugya of Rav in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Again, I think it bears. Let's go back to the sugya of Rav to really understand this Gemara. The sugya of Rav is Lamed Chesam at base, smack in the middle of the page. Mam is smack in the middle of the page. Omar Rabba, Omar Rav. It's the first word on the line on Lamed Chesam at base. Omar Rabba, Omar Rav. Hamagdish Avdoi. Someone who's Magdish is Eved. Yotzol Lecheres. My timer. Gufei loy Kodesh. His goof is not Kodesh. He's not. You can't be Mekadesh his goof. L'demei loy Kamar, and he didn't say for his value. What did he mean to say? The Lahabi Am Kodesh Kamar. He's part of the Am Kodesh, and therefore he. Now, Rabbi Yosef Omar Hamafker Avdoi. Mandam. Okay, net it up now. Iboy Lahu. Sarach get Shichro Eloy Sarach. Does Rav require a get Shichro or not? Toshma. The Omar of Chia Bar Ovin. Omar Rav. Echad Zeh v'Echad Zeh. Whether you're Magdish or you're Mafkir. Yotzel Lecheres B'Tzarach get Shichro. So Rabbi Chia says when Rav said you're Magdish the Eved, he goes free. It doesn't mean without anything. He requires to get Shichro as well. Good. Now, getting this conversation was brought up to Eretz Yisrael, to the famous Rabbi Yochanan, and he was told the following, back by us. So Rabbi Chia bar Yosef comes and he tells Rav Sugi in front of Rabbi Yochanan, Amalei, and Rabbi Yochanan said, with the lashon of bitmia, incredulously, Amar Rav Hachi? Did Rav really say this? Read the Gemara. Who lo Yama Hachi? And Rabbi Yochanan did not say that. In other words, where is Rabbi Yochanan saying, I can't believe Rav said it, when Rabbi Yochanan himself said the same thing, that they go free? It says, no, Hachi Kama. This is what Rabbi Yochanan meant. Amar Rav Kavasi. In other words, don't read it as a lashon of tema with incredulity. I think I made up that word, right? But go ahead and say that, oh, Rav agrees with me. No, that's the way to read it. I'm a Rav Hachi. Rav is agreeing with me. Great. The Ikka the Ami, others say that the Ami loy siyu mekamei. Rav Chia bar Yosef did not finish the statement. Remember, there was two statements in the Gemara. One, you go free if you're Magdish, and two, you need to get Shichror. He didn't get the chance to say a get Shichror, and therefore Amalei, right? And therefore Rabbi Yochanan commented, "V'lei Amar Rav Tzarich get Shichror." In other words, Rav said he goes free. Didn't Rav say he needs to get Shichror? Rabbi Yochanan Tamei, Rabbi Yochanan Mafker Avdoi. If someone's Mafker is ever Yotz L'Cheres V'Tzarich get Shichror. So in other words, when it was reported to Rabbi Yochanan, it was reported half of the statement of Rav, not the complete statement. But as we saw in the Amid Beis, based on Chia bar Ovin, Rav agrees with Tzarich get Shichror. Echad Zeh, whether it's Hegdish, the Echad Zeh, whether it's Hefker, Tzarich get Shichror. So that's the end of that sugya. That's the end of that sugya. Kufa Amra Ula Amra Rabbi Yochanan. Now the din of Mafker Eved. We did the sugya of Hegdish. Now we're doing the sugya of Hefker. Guys, let's view an Eved as two components. Let's view an Eved as two components. Let's view a woman as one component. By a woman, she's an Eishes Ish. You don't own her. A man doesn't own his wife. She's an Eishes Ish. There's a din of Issa. The get only takes care of the din of Isser. The get takes care of the din of Isser. When it comes to an Eved, there's two parts. There's you own the Eved. There's the Dinei Mamonis part of the Eved. And two, there's the Isser part of the Eved. That the Eved needs to get Shichur. So when you're Mafker an Eved, what does that do? That only takes care of the Mamonistic part. It only takes care of the monetary part that you own in the Eved. Conversely, there's another Chelik the Eved, the Isser part of the Eved. The act of Hefker does not go ahead automatically and take that off. You would have to give a get Shichur. So in other words, if you give a get Shichur, it takes care of, you kill two birds with one stone. The get Shichur will go ahead, it'll take off both. I'm saying I don't own the Eved anymore. I'm saying he's free. But if you mafker it, you're creating stages. Mafker only takes care of the moment part. It doesn't take care of the Isser part. That you would need to get Shikha for the Isser part. Are we clear on that? It's a very, you're splitting the two parts of the Evet. Usually it's taking care of one thing. That's when you're not Mafker the Evet. So says the Gemara, with that introduction, Gufo, Amar Ula Rabbi Yochanan, Hamafker Abda Yotz Lecheris, B'tzarech get Shikra. Even though you mafka him, you still need to get Shikra. Because why? Because you didn't take off what? The Isser part. Now, Ger Shemes, now the Ger, once he dies, he has no relatives. So what's the din of his property? It becomes Hefker. So a Ger that dies, Ubizbizu Yisrael Nechasav, and the Yisrael goes to claim his property, because after all, he is, it's Hefker. V'hoyu behen avodim, and he had in his possession slaves. Eretz Canaan, avodim Canaanim. Ben gedolim, whether they're gedolim that can be zoich in themselves, uben ketanim, or whether ketanim that cannot be zoich in themselves, koina atzma b'nei chayrin. They acquire themselves as b'nei chayrin. They acquire themselves as b'nei chayrin. In other words, they become first, and they're machzik in themselves, and therefore they are what? They're free. Obviously, the kasher is, where did the Isser part go to, guys? Who took care of the Isser part? The guy died. Who took care of the Isser part? Abisholoimer, Gedolim kanu atzman, Gedolim acquire themselves, b'nei chayrin, because they have a yad to acquire themselves. Ketanim kolamachzik ben zoicha behen. The Ketanim, on the other hand, right? The Ketanim, on the other hand, they acquire themselves. They can't acquire themselves. They don't have a yad. So anyone who comes along, it's no difference than picking up a piece of jewelry. No difference than picking up a piece of wheat. Whatever's loose you can get. Who are then they can acquire that. So again, so the machlokes is between the Tanakama and Abba Shaul regarding an Evet cotton, whether Evet cotton is free or not. The bottom line is, guess what? The Chimi Kosev get Shikra. Who wrote the get Shikra? Who wrote the get Shikra? Le'elu. So that's the kasha. Amar, so Ula said to Rav Abba, Domi Haimid Rabbanon K'deloi Gami Inshi Shmaitza. It looks like you never learned Gemara in your life. He gave him a zug. Ula gave him a zug. The time of Mai, I mean, what's the chilik? Why wouldn't you have to write a get shechar? The Amr of Nachman, Kasava Ula, Avdoi the ger, the eved of a ger is ki ishtoi. It's just like his wife. My ishtoi mishtalcha b'loy get. An isha, once he dies, leaves without a get. Af avadav mishtalchim b'loy get. So to his avodim, they leave without a get. As soon as he dies, in other words, as soon as he dies, the mammon part and the issa part are just like a get and the shtar shikra would do the job. So too his death does the job. So what's your kasha? What's your kasha? Ihachi afili Yisrael nami. Ihachi, when the Jew dies, why doesn't the Eved go free? Guys, again, what are we saying? We're saying the following. We're saying, when do we say the Issa remains? That's when the guy's still alive. Once the guy's dead, the Eved is no different than his wife. The Ger is no different than his wife, right? So therefore, he dies. The Eved acquires what? Himself, his money, that he acquires his money, meaning his own body. And Svegens, he's like a woman. Once the man dies, you don't need a get. You don't need to get a shtar shikra either. We make the dimyon between a get and shtar shikra. Now, if that's the case, if you compare it to a woman, what happens to why does it have to be a ger? A regular Yisrael also. Once he dies, the Eved should go free. And we know he doesn't. Once he dies, the Eved should go free. We know that he's bequeathed to his children. Says the Gemara, Amakra, and you should bequeath them to your children afterwards. So in other words, the Torah calls them a piece of karka. Since they're a piece of karka, as we saw above, that Eved is daimel karka, therefore they don't go free. They're inherited by what? By a ger. There is no person to inherit. The ger does not have any yarshim. Since the ger doesn't have any yarshim, therefore he's free. Masha'en Kain over here, where there are yarshim, they acquire the Eved just like any other part of the estate. Fred Gemari Hachi, if they are considered karka, hamafker avdo mace nami, if a person's mafker is Eved and mace and he dies, also it should go to what? His kids? He's now, guys, what's the answer? Let's go through it. He's mafker his Eved, and he dies. So mafker Eved, the money part is free. When he dies, the Issa part is free. Oh, very geschmack. So once you understand these two components, the Gemara goes nicely. Ihachi, if you're telling me that the Eved is a piece of karka to be bequeathed to his children, hamafker avdoi, if a person was first mafker as Eved, and consequently mace, nami should be inherited by the children. However, Allama Omar Ameimar, hamafka avdo mace, oisaya Eved ein le takana. If someone's mafker an Eved and he dies, that Eved has no takana. As we're going to see. Rashi, ein le takana, kidim mefarish lekaman, the kivin de ifkiroi, once he was mafker him, pakam imayna minei. The suruhu de posh lebailam aleihem. And it's the sur that's left over. The chimais, ein zu Yerusha, this is not a Yerusha, lohayrish lebanov, hilkach ein loy mishi yitrena beget. You have no one to go ahead and free this guy. And the Gemara says in that, kasha, that's takashver. Okay, let's go through this again one more time. Rabbi Gitin says, if a person's mafker his eved, right, he goes free and he doesn't need to get shechra, right? And he doesn't need to get shechra. We went ahead, we asked the kasha from what? From Ger, that the Ger, who wrote to get shechra by Ger, that he should be free. And we said there's a difference where the Baal is alive and when he's not alive. When the Baal is alive, then it's what he can write to get. It's like the get. Once the Baal, there's a difference when there are Yarshim or not. So if he dies, there are no Yarshim. The Isser part and the Moment part are both out there. There's no one to inherit it. Therefore, he's free. I get shechra. There's no one to write to get shechra. There's no difference than a woman whose husband dies doesn't need a get. Question: if that's the case by Yisrael as well, if the Yisrael dies, he should be totally free without anything. Says the Gemara, he is acquired. The monistic part is acquired, and the Issatic part is acquired by the Yarshim. Read the Gemara. If first he's mafker is Eved, and then he dies, the Eved has no takana. Why doesn't he have a takana? The monistic part isn't acquired because it's hefker, and the Isser part is not something you can bequeath alone without the monistic part. So ainly takana, he does not have a takana. He does not have a takana, meaning how is he going to get free? His owner is dead. The Yarshim didn't inherit him. The Yarshim did not inherit him, right, with the ability to go ahead and free him. So he's stuck in a hard place. Okay. And according to Ula, the Eved should be mutter completely. According to Ula, since he's dead, the owner is dead, he should be free. And that's the kasha on Ula from a Meimar. One more time. According to Ula, once the guy's dead and there's no mominus to be given over, he should be free. Yet a Meimar says that in fact he's not free because there's no one to give him a get. Obviously, he needs a get. When you say Ein Takana, it means there's no one alive to give him a get. But why should he need a get since the guy's dead? The answer is that the kasha in Achanayim, it's a kasha on Ula. Okay. Says Gemara Vaita. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, halacha ka'abashol, that if a ger dies and he leaves over avodim gedolim, they go free. They're kind of themselves. But Abishol says that and even the cotton's kind of. But Abishol says that that the cotton doesn't have a yad. Anyone who comes along could acquire them. Amli Rabbi Zerul of Yaakov Bar Idi Amid Beis. It says Rabbi Zerul to Yaakov Bar Idi, B'ferish shmilacha. Did you hear this openly from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Or did you infer it from something? Sometimes you hear psak halacha, and from the psak halacha, you ascertain that's what the Amoira or Tana held. So, in other words, I didn't hear him say openly that halacha is like Abishol. I heard him pass in a case, and I ascertained that it must be also like Abishol. And again, what does Abishol hold? That if a person is hefker on his two avodim, because he was a ger, the cotton is not clean himself. My klala, what's the cloud that you could have inferred that he said this way from? Don Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Amru, the Talmidim said Lifnei Rebbe. The Talmidim said in front of Rebbe, Omar, a person says, Nisayashni me ploini avdi. I'm miyayish from ploini my eved. I'm give yish. Rashi says a lashon of hefker. He's being mafker his eved. Mahu. What's the din? Right? Amalahem. Oimarni ein le takana. Meaning, this eved, he can't get married. He can't get married. Ein le takana, says Rashi. Ein le takana b'bas Yisrael v'loy b'shivcha. He's in limbo land. Shari Meshuchrahu Ktsas, he's a little free from his monistic part, the Eina Gomer, but he's not free from his Issadic part. So he's in no man's land. So Ein Le Takana, Ella Bishtar. The only way he can go ahead and get married to a Bas Yisrael is with a shtar. From Rabbi Yochanan, in my time of the Rebbe, what's the reason for Rebbe? That you need a shtar. The Gomer Lo Lama Isha. Guys, it's interesting. You have two of the most famous Gezerah Shabbos in Shas in one daf. Chet mitruma and la me'isha. It says by Isha, v'chasav la sefer krisis, and it says by Eved, it says v'chupsa lo nitain la. And the pasuk says, v'ish ki yishkav es Isha shichva zera, if a man lies with a woman, v'hi shivcha nechrefes le'ish, we're speaking about a woman with chatzi Eved, chatzi bas chayren, and she is engaged to an Eved Ivri. He's the only one that's permitted to her. The heftalay niftasa, and she didn't redeem herself. By chupsla nitain law, or she didn't get a star. She didn't get a star. Kikaris tiyah lo yamusu. He'll get malchus. He won't die. Kiloi chufasa, because she never received her star. Kiloi chufasa, because she never received her star. So what do we see? Lo meisha. Ma isha b'shtar, just like an isha is b'shtar. Af eved nami b'shtar. So to an eved has to go free with a star. The kodaikis mina ki isha. Ma isha is surah v'loy memayna. As we said earlier, a woman, the get only takes care of the issa part. Af eved nami is surah v'loy memayna. So too, the star takes care of the issa part. So when you're mafka the eved, all you took care is the mamnistic part. So as long as you didn't get the shtar shechrar, you still have the issa part. Since you have the issa part, you're still a shtickle eved, even though you're not a complete eved. So you're in no man's land, and ain't takana ela b'shtar. So now, what do you see from here? It must be, when you compare it to a woman, it must be speaking about a gedolah. The Gemara assumes it must be speaking about a gedolah, an eved gadol, similar to a woman. And therefore you need what? What do you see? You see that what? Zafka there. We would say you need a star. Masha'en came what? Why an eved katana? You don't even, you'll be able to go ahead and be zeichin him, be able to kind of him. Let's see Rashi. It's long Rashi over here. With kodaikas mina. Kivin the Rebbe Meisha Yalafla. Iri Rebbe El ben Mafker Eved Gadol. He's being Mafker and Eved Gadol. Sheyesh lo yad liknois atzmo, who has the capacity to acquire himself. Umeshev Kiroi, and when he's Mafker him, Ein lo yalav ela Isser. All he was remaining is the Isser. Avaloi mamin. Ki isha zu sheget shala eina bolaf gia mamin sheyesh lo leha ela Isser. Again, just like a get isha only takes off the Isser, so too the get of a and the comparison lola will only take off the Isser. Aval be'eved cotton like Iri Rebbe. Rebbe's not speaking about an eved cotton at all. The lav dumi the isha, because he's not similar to an isha. The ikka drawer the minor leha, because since he can't acquire his money, he's still out there available. Guys, this is Abba Shol's din. Again, once you mafka him, when you're mafka the eved, what happens to the money, guys? He's the money, he acquires his money, so the money is off the table. But if it's the cotton doesn't have the capacity to acquire it, so the money's still on the table. That's what it means, draw the mamayna. So Mamela, he's not speaking about that. So from this psak of Abba Shol, this psak of Yeshua ben Levi stating what Rebbe said, we can ascertain that he holds like Abba Shol. Because if he held like the Chachamim, there would be none money by the cotton either, because he said the cotton's also off the table. One more time. We're splitting hairs in the Eved between Isser and money. By Isha, there's clearly only money. We're making a tzushtel between Eved and Isha. Just like each needs a star to get free, so too an Eved needs a star to get free. And just like this case where a person is mafker, is Eved, right? You need a star. Of course, it's taking care of the Issa part, but not the Mammon part. Why? Because the Get Isha, there is no Mammon part. A cotton, there's still a Mammon part. Because no one, when he was mafka the Eved, there was no one there to be Zaycha. The Eved can't be Zaycha himself. So therefore, Rabbi can't be speaking about this individual. So he must be holding like Abishol. Because if he didn't hold like Abishol, then there is no money either by the cotton, because he's also off the table, according to the Chachamim. So therefore, now, if he would, there must be a difference if he heard Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi say openly, the halach is like Rabbi Abishol, or he inferred this from this Maisa. In other words, there's a question on this Maisa. What's the obvious question? How do you know that similar to Isha? Can a woman get a get when she's a katana? Yes, she could. If her father married it off, she's a katana, she gets a get, right? The din of Mian is only what by a katana that was married off midrabanan. Midoraisa, father could accept the get. So I could just as easily say, Ma Isha is speaking about a cotton and a katana, and speaking about a katana and a cotton. And therefore, your diuk is not a diuk, that the star is only by a gadol, not a cotton. Says the Gemara, "V'imichala mai amalei adarabba doik mina leidach kisa." Let's go the other way around. Ma isha ben gadol ben katana gets a get. Af eved nami ben gadol ben cotton would get a get, and that's not like Abishol. So amalei beferish mila einachinami. I didn't hear it as an inference from Abishol from this Maisa. I heard Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi say it openly. The halach is like Abishol. In other words, initially we thought maybe he inferred it from an action. We're saying that inference is incorrect, and therefore he must have heard it openly. Now we're going to have the same Gemara the opposite way. We're going to have the same Gemara now where the dimyan to Isha that he doesn't hold like Abishol. And Isha means bein gadol, bein cotton, and he holds like the Tanakama. And the Gemara is going to say, well, maybe it's the opposite way. We're going to have the same Gemara, and just we're going to switch around the Manda Omrim. Says the Gemara. Ikadiyami, there are those who say, from Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, ain't halacha k'Abishol. The halacha is not like Abishol, meaning the Eved cotton is kind himself. Amar Rabbi Zeirel Rabbi Chia bar Abba, beferish shmilacha. Did you hear this openly? Or did you infer it from a case? My bechala, what's the case that you inferred it from? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Rebbe, nisayashni miploini avdi. I give up hope from ploni my Eved mahu. And knows your mafki Eved. Amalahem Imrani ein le takana ela b'shtar. He can't get married to a bas Yisrael, only b'shtar. Rabbi Yochanan, my time with the Rebbe, Gama lola meisha b'shtar af efenami b'shtar. The kodaikas mina kiisha ma'isha ben gedoyle ben katana gets a get af efenami ben gadol ben cotton, and therefore you will hold it to Tanakama. So if you would have heard from here that the halacha is not like Abishol as Vos, says the Ma'adarabba, doik mina lahachkisa. Ma'isha isura v'loy memayna, just like the get of an isha takes care of the issa part and not the mammon part. Af eved nami isura v'loy memayna. So to the eved, it takes care of the issa and doesn't take care of the money. Amalei, so he said, beferish miali einachinami. I heard him openly say the halacha is not like Abishol. Amamar, going back over the brisa. Amamar, amulhem aymerani ein la takana ela b'shtar. I only have a takana b'shtar. Ein lo ela b'shtar. This woman, if you mafka the Eved, the only way he can get married to a bas Yisrael is with a star. Iva Tanya, Rabbi Omer, Omerani, Afu Noisein Deme Atzmai V'Yoitza. He gives his money and he leaves. If Neshu Kimoichrei Loi, Pirish. Rebbe's mashma, and we had this earlier, in the case where you were Magdash Eved, and Bezdin can't free him, but the second guy could free him. Rabbi says, no, even Hegdish, he can buy himself back. So you see, you don't need a star. You can go ahead and facilitate that transaction with money. Hachi kamar, oy bekesef, oy b'shtar. Initially, either with kesef or star. In other words, if he's buying himself free, he can buy himself with money. Oy b'shtar or a star. The hefta, in other words, the Eved, if someone gives money to an Eved and says, listen, I'm giving you money that your master doesn't have a shus on this money, and the master says, I want $1,000 for your freedom. He then gives him $1,000. He does not need to get shechra. Oy b'shtar, or the master writes a Mishtar Shichra. Those are the two ways to go. But once he's mafka the Eved, guys, what happens? As soon as he's mafka the Eved, he doesn't own the momonistic apart. All that's left is the Isidik apart. And Mela v'hai poka like kaspe. And therefore you poka the kesef, and therefore you would need what? A get shichur. So according to this man the Amar, either or. But failure with the kesef part, then you use the star part. But you could do the kesef part. Now we're going to bring a man the Amar who says you only star works. Bring a man the Amar only star works. Now I should have put this pasuk out. I should have put this pasuk out. But listen to I'm going to tell you Rashi the way the pasuk. Here's the way Rashi learns the pasuk. V'yishki yishka ves isha shichva zera v'yishivcha nechrefes leish v'hefta loy niftasa. Completely, she wasn't completely freed. Or a star wasn't given to her, meaning she wasn't completely freed. She only is partially freed. It's a chatzi eved, chatzi bastoyre, and you have two partners that own an eved. One frees his part, the other one doesn't free his. So he's half and half. And then a man goes ahead and is mizana with her, then he doesn't die. And the pasuk concludes kiloi chufasha. Why does the pasuk say kiloi chufasha and doesn't mention anything about money? It only mentions chufasha because the only way to go out is with shtar. Chufasha means right a shtar. Chufasha means a shtar of freedom. So when the pasuk concludes kiloi chufasha and doesn't mention anything about the hefta, it means you can only go out with shtar. So as opposed to Rabbi that either or, by kesef or shtar, this madiyama holds only shtar. This madiyama would hold only shtar. Well, Fukimi Haitana, Tanya, Rabbi Shimon, I remember Shimon Rabbi Kiva, Yachol Yeh Kesef Goimeba, Kiderach Shtar Goimeba. I might think that Kesef completes the kinyan like shtar does. Tamad Leima, the Heftalin of Dasa, Oirikola Parsha Kula Leichufasa. It goes ahead and concludes the whole parsha, as I said, with the word Leichufasha. Leimelecha, Shtar Goimeba, a shtar completes the freedom, Kesef Goimeba, but Kesef doesn't complete the freedom. Amar Rami Barchomer of Nachman, halacha Reb Shimon, halacha is like Reb Shimon, right? The halacha is like the halacha is like Reb Shimon, who said, I'm having a brain freeze. That you only go out with shtar. The halacha is like Rav Shimon. Tanya, Rav Shimon, I'm Shimon Akiva. I'm sorry, I was focused on Rabbi Akiva. Rav Shimon says the name of Akiva. In other words, like Rav Shimon, only shtar. The halacha is like it's not kesef, only shtar. The halacha is like Rav Shimon. Rav Yosef Bar Chama Rabbi Yochanan ain't halacha Rav Shimon that you could go out with kesef as well. Ashkei Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Rabba Bar Shila. Change the words. Tavikoya Piska debate Tefila. Amalei halacha ain't halacha. Who's the halacha like? Amalei. Ani yoyme ein halacha. The halacha is not like Rav Shimon, meaning you can go out with kesef and or shtar. Rabbanan the Asamim Mechuzah Amri Amar Rab Zeira Mishmeid Rab Nachman halacha like Rav Shimon that you can go out only with shtar. We came to Surah Ashkei Rav Chia Bar Ovin Amri Le Emily Iza Gufa the Uvda Hechi Havi. What happened there? Amali Ahi Amsa. There was this woman. Avi Mora Shtiv Meira. Her master was a Shtiv Meira. He was holding by death. Asya Bachia Kameh. She was crying in front of him. Amalei. At Amos Shtabed Betezel, how long should I go ahead and be an Eved? You're dying, and I'm going to be an Eved forever. Shokal Kum say he took off his hat, Shadaba, and he threw it to her. And Amalai told the woman, Zil Kani ha, go pick up this hat, and you be kind of kinyan chalipin, the Kani nafshech, and be kind yourself. So the Shlimira is going ahead. He's throwing his hat to her and saying, be kind of the hat and acquire yourself. Asl Kamed Rav Nachman. The Shala came in front of Nachman, Amalahu, Layasab like Klum, she's not free. He didn't do anything. Now, Mandechazi Savar, Mishum Dalach Rav Shimon, that you couldn't free her with what? With this Kinyan. In other words, this is Kinyan Kesef. Be kind of the Kesef and free yourself. No, it said because you need a star. And therefore, they felt that the freedom, the reason she didn't go free is because there wasn't a star, because the Allah is like Rav Shimon, that for an Eved to go free, you need a star. But Loihi, that's not the reason. That's not the reason it didn't work. El Mishun Davle Caleb Shel Makna. It's the Caleb of the Makna. What does that mean? When you do a Kinyan Chalipin, there's two parties. The one that is giving it over, that's the Makna, and the one that's acquiring it. The halacha is it's the one that's acquiring it who has to make the Kinyan Chalipin, the one who's acquiring it. So over here, the Makna was the Shriv Meirah. and he was using, he would have to have taken something that belonged to her, even though that might be problematic, because Mashakon Evikon Rabbah. But the reason the failure wasn't because Kesef doesn't work. Kesef does work, but this Kesef didn't work because it was the Kesef of the Makna and not of the Kleina. Okay, concludes the Gemara. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Achisoy, Amar Rav Hamnuna, Saba, Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Shion, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Hamnuna, Halacha Rav Shimon, the halacha of Shimon that an Eved goes free only with shtar, v'loihi. It's not so. Ein halacha Rav Shimon. The halacha is not like Rav Shimon. Thank you all for listening. B'ez Hashem tomorrow morning.